This was a phrase that was said by an Englishman about 500 years ago. He would often see from his workplace the prisoners who were being escorted to prison on a regular basis in England. And each time he would see the prisoners go by, he would say that phrase, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." He understood the reality of his human nature. That his human nature was fallen. Not completely without redemption, but that his human nature was broken. He had a tendency towards that which is evil. There was something within him that would say that it was like if something bad was out there that he might want to go towards it. And he knew that it was a reality that he could act upon that. And so he could say in all truth, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." It's those two things at the end that were framed the whole statement. There, go I. I'm on my way there, just by myself. In my fallen human nature, I know myself. And I will go there. I will go and do that which would lead me towards prison. I will go and do that which would lead towards punishment. It's a reality. There go I. Yet there's the phrase in the middle. There's a phrase that this Englishman knew so well that was such a gift that he was able to say it. There, but for the grace of God, go I. He knows himself, but he knows that someone has come to save him from his fallen nature. He knows that someone has come to lead him out of the darkness towards which he knows he will regularly go. He knows that someone has come to lead him away from that place to which he would naturally go. And that grace has come in Jesus Christ. That grace would come to him each day as he turned that phrase into a prayer. Not just a reminder to himself, but it was truly a prayer that he would receive that grace anew, because he knew on this day, this grace could be renewed for him. He knew on this day he could turn from darkness again and walk back towards the light. He knew this day could be a day of salvation renewed in his heart. Which is what we hear St. Paul remind us of today. Behold, now is a very acceptable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Now is that day when we can realize, we can admit to ourselves anew, yes, I have a fallen human nature. Yes, I am not perfect. We can admit that today. Today we can also admit that today is a day of salvation. Today is a day when we turn back anew to the one who turned towards us when we were in need. We turn our minds, we turn our hearts back anew to the one who came to become a fountain of grace for each one of us. We turn back anew to the one whose heart is open to us, so that we can drink deeply of the grace that transforms us, of the grace that saves us, of the grace that leads us out of darkness and into his wonderful light. I thought of this phrase as I readied myself to hear those words said to me and to said to all of us as we receive our ashes on our forehead tonight. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you will return. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you will return. There we will go. That is the orientation of our lives. Of every human life, we are oriented like we're journeying towards death, towards going into the dust. Remember this. We need to remember this. We need to have this in our minds and in our hearts. We need to remember this reality that we are dust, and to dust we will return. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Because as those ashes, as that dust is placed on my forehead, it's placed in a particular sign. We make the sign of the cross on our foreheads with this dust. Because there, towards death, towards sin, there I have my tendency to go. There I will naturally go. grace of God that has come to me through the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. The ashes mean that I'm a sinner. The ashes mean that I have this tendency towards sin. These ashes mean that my life, just on my own, will end in death. But the cross means I have a Savior. The cross means that there is a new grace in my life. The cross means that even though I may return to dust, I have one in my life who has conquered dust. I have one in my life who has gone through death. Death is no longer the last word in my life. Even though I have this tendency, I can turn from that, and I can turn towards the cross of my Lord Jesus Christ. And in his cross, I receive every grace to overcome every sin. Through his cross, I need not fear the power of death over me, because through his cross, Jesus has conquered death and leads every one of us who drink of his grace through baptism, through confirmation, who literally drink of his life in his precious body and blood. And this is not the final word for us either. Death wants to have the final word, and there we would naturally go. But for the grace of God, the grace that is renewed in us through this holy season of Lent as we turn towards prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, and receiving the cross anew. We might want to turn towards sin. We might want to have that fear of the power of death. There, but for the grace of God renewed in us now, go on.